Welcome, Hoosier Nation, to another episode of the Hoosier Life. I believe this is number 14. The numbers are not that relevant, but nonetheless, we are back. We're better than ever. We're ready to go. Josh, we got these new microphones sitting right in front of us, trying to, as we keep getting more serious about this, keep going forward. We want to up the product level just a little bit. So hopefully, you guys notice a little bit of a difference. We're sporting the new mics. It's a good change, and I think we're ready to go. Josh, how's it been after that big Michigan State win that we unfortunately did not get to talk about last week? Just some scheduling conflicts. We're definitely going to get to it today, but how have you been over the past couple weeks? Let us know. How's Bloomington been treating you?
It's been great so far. I mean, the fallout from the Michigan State game was pretty fun. I mean, it was a fun week on campus. People were really hyping up that Ohio State game. Then it was fall break, so things was just kind of like people left town, whatever. But it was a good last week. I don't know. Things are going well. We're doing good. Bloomington's great. It's starting to feel a little bit more like fall.
I can't complain though. The leaves were falling on my way to class today. The breeze was nice and cool. I could not complain, and hopefully this Nebraska game is going to feel like some real Big Ten football. When that weather dips down into the 60s, high 50s, there's a nice breeze. So we got a great game coming up this weekend, like I said, but we got to go back to that program-defining win, if you will, over Michigan State. I mean, it wasn't. Michigan State after that BYU loss doesn't look like that great of a team, but they're still very talented. They get some of the top recruits in the country, and D'Antonio is on the short list of best college football coaches in the entire country right now. So nonetheless, it's a great win. Michigan State's still a top-tier program. And the best part about that win, Josh, we got to talk about this, is how they won that game. They went down 14-0. They got beat deep twice, and they went into halftime down 2 possessions and made some coaching adjustments. Different play calling in the second half. The defense stepped up. They played tougher. They played smarter. And they dominated every aspect of the game for the entire second half, with exception to that final drive where Michigan State pounded it in on 4th down, I believe. But nonetheless, an almost flawless second half from Indiana on both sides of the ball. And what that meant for the program was absolutely huge after last year. All those teases coming so close to all those top 10 teams. I don't have to go repeating those, but this just meant so much for this team. They've got a new identity. They can play defense now. They can't just play defense, but they can play defense well. Like you said, people were excited about it. They were hyped going into that game. And then after the game, the buzz was real going into Ohio State. So hopefully that loss did not kind of bring the students back a little bit. And hopefully there's a strong showing on Saturday when Nebraska is going to bring a lot of fans into Memorial Stadium. They travel very well. But bottom line is, people now are taking this football team seriously in Bloomington. Hopefully they show up, and hopefully traffic on 37 is not that much of an issue. It was for me this weekend getting out of here for fall break. So hopefully it treats traffic well and people fill the stadium, because it's going to be a fantastic game, and your Hoosiers can play football, in case you didn't know.
Absolutely, and it's what's really great about this, actually, Kevin Wilson mentioned this on his radio show. It's really good to be on ESPN and be on ABC to get this football program some exposure that it hasn't really had in the past. Last week on ESPN, I know the game against Michigan State was going up against Clemson, Louisville, so that wasn't necessarily fantastic. But this week, it's the 3:30 game, ABC. There aren't too many other good games. Maybe Alabama, Tennessee's another good one, but it's good to get this team some exposure, because you said it. This team it's a good football team, and this program is becoming better and better, and that's just good for the school in general. You're going to get more recruits coming in. You're going to get more eyes on this university, and that's only a good thing. So I mean, moving forward, I'd like to see the offense kind of click a little bit better. I didn't really like some of that play calling against Ohio State, but in that Michigan State game, they really came out. They played well in the second half. The defense has been fantastic. Tom Allen has come in and really instilled a good mentality for this defense. And this week is going to be really interesting, because Nebraska is a good team, but they haven't necessarily played anybody yet. So it could be another program-defining win, if you want to say. But it's really too bad Michigan State ended up losing to BYU last weekend.
Yeah, that was a little disappointing. And you go back to what Kevin Wilson said on his radio show, being very excited that this game is on ABC, it's on national television, and the Hoosiers can get some national exposure. And I'm glad he said that. I'm very, very glad he said that, because I'm tired of these coaches saying, oh, we don't look into what the media says, or oh, we don't look into blah, 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 when most people know and most people believe that they actually do. These players, they do listen to the media. They hear what they have to say. It's unavoidable, especially in 2016. But I'm glad he said that because, A, this is a Hoosier football team that plays with great confidence. They know what to do. They know their game plan week in and week out, and they execute. Sometimes the game plan is good, i.e. Michigan State. Sometimes it's not. You look at the offensive play calling in Ohio State. But they know what they're supposed to do. They know what the coaches have laid out for them, and they go out there and they do it. And playing with confidence is huge. The pressure's not going to get to them. They're ready for this. They played against every top team in the conference you could imagine last year. They've gotten a chance early this year against Michigan State, beat them, top 10 matchup against Nebraska. I'm very excited. I know they're ready to go. So, Josh, let's preview this game and give a couple keys to the game. And I just want to note these numbers before we really dissect this matchup. The game opened, the spread, when the spread opened for this game, it was a touchdown. And I just checked earlier this afternoon, the spread was down to just 3 points. Keep in mind, this is a top 10 team. And according to Football Study Hall, the projected score, they're an analytical website, the projected score is 31 to 28 Nebraska, and it gives Indiana a 43% chance of winning. So it's not quite a coin flip, but it's probably the next best thing, especially when you got a top 10 team coming into town. That's nothing but respect given to the Hoosiers, even though their offense is half of what it was last year. So, Josh, I'll fire to you first on this one. What's one thing you're looking for this Nebraska matchup?
I'm really looking to see if this Indiana defense can stop the read option. I mean, JT Barrett ran all over this defense last week. Mike Weber had a great game. Tommy Armstrong is definitely not JT Barrett, but he's pretty darn close. He's another running quarterback, and IU really did not do well with that read option. So I really want them to see if they can set those edges, because it's on that defensive lineman on the edge to really read that and react accordingly. Because, I mean, I was talking with my roommate about it. I mean, this 4-2-5 defense is basically a prevent defense because you have four guys up, or it's a 4-2-5. Yeah, so you only have two linebackers. So you have that whole middle of the field that's basically wide open. And it's hard to sometimes fill those gaps, and that's where having that third linebacker maybe hurts it. But in the big picture, that 4-2-5 defense has been great. But really, jamming up those gaps up the middle and those defensive ends are going to be really, really key with that read option.
Yeah, that's right on. And I've got something kind of related to that for my second point, so I'll hold off on that one. But for me, you mentioned Tommy Armstrong Jr. Indiana has to contain him. If he doesn't play well, he didn't play especially well the first three quarters last week against Illinois. Nebraska doesn't play well, and they're going to rely solely on one running back. I think their second leading rusher is out for the game. Big play man Jordan Westerkamp, he won't go in all likelihood. So that's going to really, really limit them offensively. And they're going to rely on Tommy Armstrong to make plays. And that Husky position for the Hoosiers defensively have to keep his eye on Armstrong, whoever it is, limit his breakout plays. If he takes off, go after him, get to him in the backfield. Because that offensive line, when they give him time to make decisions and read the field, he makes good decisions almost every time. He's a very experienced and very disciplined quarterback. He's mobile. He can escape the pocket, and he's got an absolute heck of a cannon for an arm. So they have to contain Armstrong. It's going to be on him to make the big plays in this game. He's fully capable of it. He's a very disciplined quarterback. So if Indiana can get to him, win the battle in the trenches, and contain him on these broken plays where he breaks out and runs, they're going to put themselves in position to win this game. They just have to make plays offensively.
Yeah, and that's what one of my other keys is open this game up and don't be scared. I feel like some of that play calling against Ohio State they were a little bit scared and a little bit overwhelmed going into number 2 Ohio State, and it paid off for a little bit, but you can only be conservative for so long in that game because you knew that they were explosive and they were going to have some big plays, and they did with for example, that 91-yard touchdown, or not touchdown, that kick return that set up a touchdown. That was a play that you really can't let happen, and you need to open up that offense a little bit. Let Lego loose a little bit. Let him get it out to Nick Westbrook, Mitchell Page. Just open it up a little bit, because against Ohio State it was very conservative, and I feel like Kevin Wilson stayed with that conservative play calling a little bit too long. They started to open up when they had to, but then Ohio State knew exactly what was coming, and it wasn't really a surprise. So if they can really hone in on setting up the pass with the run or vice versa, I think they'll be very successful. It's good to have a balanced attack, and that's what Indiana needs going up against a team like Nebraska. You can't be scared. You're at home. You got to set the mentality a little bit.
Yeah, and for a top 10 team, Nebraska is not that intimidating. And I'm with you. The play calling has been a little iffy so far this year, like against Wake Forest, sometimes against Michigan State, and absolutely, at least in the first half, 3/4 of that Ohio State game. So my second key is they have to play smart offensively. And I get it. People didn't like the play calling. I didn't love it either against Ohio State. So it's crucial that Kevin Wilson and the coaching staff, they call a smart game. They use the running backs, but they also mix it up, take some shots through the air. Nick Westbrook is very, very capable. Go let him make a big play. It's a very, very winnable game at the end of the day for Indiana. In my eyes, Nebraska is kind of a poor man's Ohio State in every sense of the term. You know, they have similar guys in the trenches, or I'm sorry, smaller guys in the trenches. Nebraska does. They've got, worse athletes, less playmaking ability, still great athletes. Don't get me wrong. They recruit well, but there's less playmaking ability along the perimeter. And that's important because Ohio State, when they beat you and when they run away from games, they bust big plays, whether it's Mike Weber this year or Zeke Elliott in the past or Devin Smith or Mike Thomas or Braxton Miller. I could go on and on. When Ohio State beats you, they get these big plays and that kickoff return. Nebraska doesn't really have that, especially with Westerkamp out of the game. So it's crucial, again, that Indiana can contain Armstrong and play with confidence offensively. This is a very, very winnable game, and I will be absolutely disappointed in the Hoosiers if they're not winning at any point in the fourth quarter. If they don't win this game, I'm going to be slightly disappointed, but I'm going to be entirely disappointed if they don't show up and they don't have a lead in the fourth quarter. This is probably the most winnable game against a top 10 team that Indiana has ever seen in probably the history of the program. And I don't know about what it was like way back when in the 1950s and 60s, but as far as the past 2 decades goes, this absolutely has to be the most winnable top 10 game coming from an unranked Hoosier team that we've ever seen.
I am right there with you because, like we said, Nebraska really hasn't played anybody of note. I mean, they beat Oregon, but Oregon just lost 70-21 at home to Washington. They played Illinois. They're not that great. They played Northwestern. They're not fantastic. They played they played Fresno State. They're not fantastic by any means at all either. So, I mean, you're at home. It's homecoming. You should have a sense of pride about this game. ABC is going to be there. The bright lights are on you. It's time to kind of show this country what Indiana football is made of and what the new kind of mentality is going to be. I mean, Adidas is dressing you up in these beautiful new candy striped jerseys. You should go out there and kind of give a crap about this and play well because Nebraska is not fantastic. Indiana is coming off a game where they should have a lot of confidence, even though they did lose by 3 scores. Going to Ohio State, they probably played Ohio State closer than anybody has this year and probably will until potentially Michigan. So this is a game the Hoosiers don't necessarily need to win because I still see at least three more wins on their schedule coming down the stretch for a bowl game, which is the ultimate goal. But getting a win here would do wonders for your program. I'm sure there'll be a few recruits in the stands this weekend. It would definitely be big, especially on a big stage on ABC for the country to see.
Without question. And it's no secret that we love to talk about food on this show, so I'm just going to leave it here and kind of turn Indiana football into food, if you will. Last year, we got an appetizer taste of what this team is made of, hanging tight with Ohio State, taking Michigan to double OT, touchdown deficit against Iowa late in the fourth. This year, we're getting the main course. They took out Michigan State. I think they have as good a chance as ever to take out a top 10 team, like I just said, against Nebraska this weekend. So I hope they're hungry, and I hope that come Sunday morning, that victory flag is raised within Memorial Stadium. I'm not going to go out and give a score prediction, but just kind of tying my keys together. If Indiana can limit the big plays offensively for Nebraska, contain Armstrong and get to him, they're going to put their offense in a position to score on every single possession. They're very capable of it. If Kevin Wilson can call a smart game and even dip into his bag of tricks once, that is going to be enough to propel them in this game. I can't stress enough how kind of anxious and eager I am to get this game going because I truly, truly think that this is going to be this week's upset in college football. But Indiana has to earn it. It's not going to come easy, but everything is there for them to win this game.
Absolutely. I have a question for you, though. Do you storm the field if you win this game?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you want to talk about storming the field, and it's odd to storm the field twice in one season, let alone twice in 3 weeks. But if you want to storm the field, you just look at the number next to the team. It shouldn't go beyond that. Nebraska's got a 10 right next to him. If that clock strikes 000 and the Hoosiers have more points than Nebraska, I think the students should be on the field again. And that caps it at 2. I mean, there's not really going to be another home game that should warrant a field storming this year, which is both good and bad. So I think for a football program, you got to cap it at 2. You can't storm more than twice. No one really ever storms twice. But to answer your question, if they win this game, I think without question.
Okay, I'm in the same boat as you, and I just want to check because I mean beating Michigan State was huge, but now we know they're not very good. Nebraska, I mean, I guess they are a top 10 team, but they really haven't played anybody. So I mean, it's just a little skeptical by me, but I'm definitely all for the storming of the field. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm right with you. And you can look into, oh, no, Fresno's not that good. Their best win, Oregon. Oregon's terrible now. You can't look too much into it. You can't look too much into it. So for the casual fan, if they're like, we're not supposed to win this game, but we won this game, see ya. I'll meet you at the 50-yard line. So, that's all I got for Nebraska. Josh, you don't have to give a score prediction, but real quickly, how do you see this one playing out?
I think this is going to be a close game. I don't want to give a score prediction. I do think offense is going to win this game. This is not going to be a defensive game by any means. Nebraska scores a lot of points. Indiana has the capability to score a lot of points. Whoever turns the ball over less, I think, could be the winner in this game because whoever can make the most plays on defense could have the upper hand. It's just that kind of game. Both offenses like to score. Haven't really seen either defense be absolutely fantastic. I mean, IU's defense has been very good for IU, but going up against a top 10 team, they're going to have to be very, very good. So whoever gets more takeaways could become the winner of this game.
And one more quick statistic that I did not read. Indiana is bottom 10 nationally in red zone scoring offensively. That's terrible. That cannot fly. I don't remember the last time that happened for a Hoosier football team, a program centered around offense. But they have to find the end zone if they get inside the 20. They cannot settle for field goals. Just scoring one touchdown in the red zone in the first half instead of a field goal or a missed field goal, if we want to talk about that Michigan State game for Griffin Oaks, that may do it. That may be the difference going forward and give them momentum they need to knock off the Cornhuskers. So we'll see. Absolutely, let's have a conversation on Twitter about this because there's much more to be said. There's much more to be dissected. That's Josh's Twitter handle next time he comes up on the screen. For whatever reason, my computer just decided to dislike me at some point during this school year. I can't put my Twitter handle on the screen anymore, but I'm at M_Dugan44. So follow us together. We're at the Hoosier Life. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk football. And Hoosier basketball right around the corner. We're obviously, with the assembly call, obviously all open to answer any questions and talk anything about Hoosier basketball or football. So let's move on, Josh, to the uninterrupted segment. This is going to be a good one. The final leg of our show this week is going to be a very, very good one. We're changing it up a little bit. It's going to have some fun conversation going back and forth. It's nothing like ever before, I don't think. So I'll have you start us off on your uninterrupted for this one. Just kind of yours is more of a thematic one with the year in sports that we've been having.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the year of retirements, as you kind of put it before the show. I mean, we have Vin Scully going out. We got all those NBA players going out. We got Big Papi now retired after the Red Sox were eliminated. People are leaving, and it's kind of a new era in sports. And I feel like there's this one guy that has just kind of gotten the back seat, if you will, and I think that he likes it that way, but I don't really like it that way. Dick Enberg, he's retiring, or he's now retired after a very, very long broadcasting career, almost 50 years. He broadcasted MLB. He broadcasted the NFL. 8 Super Bowls. He broadcasted tennis. I mean, golf. I mean, he was so versatile in his broadcasting. It was really incredible. And he attended graduate school here at IU. He has a classroom dedicated to him at the Hyper, just past the men's locker room. Don't have to go into the men's locker room, but you can go right around it. Dick Enberg classroom is right there. And a fun fact, he broadcasted the first ever Little 500 here at IU. So, I mean, this guy is a legend here in Indiana. I don't know if he gets enough credit for his time at Indiana, but he is a broadcasting legend. He did get the backseat a little bit with Vin Scully. I mean, obviously, Vin Scully, absolutely fantastic career. But I don't think we'll ever see such a versatile broadcaster ever again as we did in Dick Enberg, because he did it for so long, he did it so well, and just now the time we are in sports, people don't do 4 sports at once. It's maybe baseball and basketball or baseball and football. It's just kind of you limit yourself. But Dick Enberg was a man of many traits, a renaissance man, if you will, in the broadcasting industry.
And the next best name I can think of when you talk about versatility is probably Jim Nantz. But there is a gap between Enberg and Nantz at this point. And obviously Nantz is still young. I love him. But there is a huge gap there. And you're right, Dick Enberg doesn't get as much love as I guess he should. And he is an IU legend. And yes, that classroom right in the hyper it is the Dick Enberg classroom. You're not wrong there. But I like that one. And what a year it's been for retirements, from the Sheriff to the Mamba, Vin Scully, Enberg, Poppy. It's unbelievable. It's too much. I don't know who's going to come next. It's been too much so far. It's been a rough one, and sports will be very, very different beginning next season. So for my topic, Josh, I want to get us both involved equally here. Let's just spitball back and forth here. So I think this upcoming offseason in college football has the potential to be hectic in terms of the coaching carousel. I think there are a lot of potential holes, and those holes could be filled or they could be empty. I don't know. I don't know if who's going to stick around, who's going to get fired, blah, blah, blah. I know who I think should get fired, but we're going to discuss this. We're going to start with LSU, who's already fired Les Miles. I'm on record for thinking that was a huge mistake. I mean, Ed Orgeron's a great interim coach. But, Josh, what does LSU do from here? Because they probably, if you factor in all of the teams that have their coaches on the hot seat right now, they probably are the most attractive destination. You could throw Notre Dame in that conversation maybe. But I think LSU, in terms of the status of that team, they're probably the most attractive right now. So what do you think LSU should do going forward in this offseason?
They need to hit a home run higher. I mean, this is a team that was at its peak very recently, and they're kind of going back downhill a little bit. But if you want to keep that momentum and at least plateau it, you really need to go out and get a big hire. Maybe reach into the NFL, see what Chip Kelly's doing. If not, stay in the college ranks and just throw a bunch of money at Tom Herman at Houston. I mean, he has really done a good job there. I think he can do really good at LSU.
I agree. I think it's Herman or bust, really. You're not going to go after P.J. Fleck at Western Michigan. How you think the boosters are going to pay for that? Absolutely not. Herman's a great football mind. He's turned Houston around like that. Not to say that Houston was ever bad. You know, they've had some great players in the past 15 years. But he made Houston relevant. And I keep hearing this stat. I can't remember the term. I'm completely blanking. This is embarrassing. But he's got his IQ, I think, is in the top 2% nationally. So he's not a dumb guy. He knows what he's doing. He's a great football coach. That's not a bad combination to have. I agree with you right there. Tom Herman's probably the leader for LSU right now, and I don't think that they'll hire Ed Orgeron, even though Orgeron does have head coaching experience in the SEC when he was at Ole Miss. He got Michael Orr. That's kind of his claim to fame when he was down at Ole Miss. Surprised if they go with him, but I think they'll go after Herman. Next up is Texas, and I've been hot on this conversation. I think Charlie Strong absolutely has to go. It's better for the program. It's been 3 years. They're still a joke. The defense is a joke, and he's a defensive guy. They're 115th in the country in total team defense, just behind San Jose State, as if I needed to go any further than that. They should go after Les Miles. Excuse me. They have to go after Les Miles. Get a big name. Because Tom Herman's not going to want to go to Texas. He may because, Houston, Austin, not too far away. Stay in the state. Easier for your family, maybe. I don't think they're going to land Tom Herman. If Tom Herman has a brain, he's going to go to LSU if he even decides to leave Houston. Go get Les Miles. Les already recruits well in Texas. I think 4 of the top 10 recruits this senior high school class committed to LSU are from the state of Texas. He recruits well there. And the Big 12 is down. Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma, they've all fallen. It's time to make a power move. You go after Les Miles. We all know his resume. He had 2 seasons in his 11 years with 8 or fewer wins, and both of those resulted in 8 wins. He had a 77% winning percentage at the helm, and that was in the SEC. How can you not go after Les Miles if you're Texas?
I completely agree. They're another team that needs a humongous hire, and Les Miles is really the most attractive candidate out there. I don't know if Notre Dame will part with Brian Kelly. That might be another potential move. I don't think Notre Dame will part with him, but no, Les Miles is really the only guy I can think of that Texas would really consider highly. I'm really blank on even other names who would be attractive for Texas because they need a home run hire. They thought they had that in Charlie Strong. He was the hot coaching commodity, but I think you definitely have to go after Les Miles, no doubt.
And maybe Bobby Petrino would leave Louisville. I doubt it.
I was thinking the same thing, though, actually. I didn't want to say it because Louisville is kind of on a high right now, but I don't know if Bobby Petrino and Texas necessarily mesh all that well. He's had some scandals, obviously, but that'd be interesting for sure.
Totally. And, Josh, where did Charlie Strong come from?
Arkansas?
I think he came from Louisville. So that would make things interesting if they went back to back.
Okay.
I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure he came from Louisville. Let me double check that because for whatever reason, I'm having second thoughts about that. And I'm going to be completely embarrassed if this is incorrect. But okay, yeah, he did come from Louisville. So saved myself there. But that would be interesting to go back to back Louisville. I don't know if the fan base, if the boosters would approve of it, but we'll see. And again, Bob Petrino likely won't leave Louisville, but it's just a side thought. You mentioned Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. This is number 3, and then we'll just go 2 more quick ones, brief conversations to be had about those. Brian Kelly, does he have to stay? I think people are saying that he's had just too much success at the helm for Notre Dame for them to fire him now. I disagree personally, but Josh, what do you think? Does he have to stay, or are they fair game to let him go?
I mean, this is a tough one. I think he should stay, honestly. I think they just had a bad year. They've been unlucky. They got Michigan State when they were supposedly playing great. Then they went down to NC State and didn't really play that well because of the hurricane that was going on. I feel like he's just been a little bit unlucky. I think he should stick around.
I hear what you're saying. And you take away that national championship run for Notre Dame where they lost and another 10-win season. You take those 2 away, and every year Brian Kelly has been the coach at Notre Dame has been 8 wins, except for 2013 when he won 9. So he's only reached double-digit wins twice at one of the most historic programs, one of the most prestigious programs, if not the most, in college football. And at Notre Dame, that's not going to cut. I think he's a good coach. I think there are some major flaws that don't really make him a viable candidate for a Notre Dame or a Texas or an Alabama or a USC. But whatever that next tier of teams is, whether that's South Carolina, Florida, LSU, I think he's a good fit for those. Maybe not so much LSU. But I just don't think he's fit for Notre Dame. I think he's made too many big mistakes. This season has been a mess. His defense was a mess. He fired Brian Van Gorder, which was a great move, and good for him to do that early in the year, although they're still bad. But I mean, I think he's just oblivious to the faults that the coaches have made this year. Wow, it's late. Excuse me. It's not all on the players, and this is a very talented roster, and he's not getting nearly as much out of it as he should. So I think we play this season out. If they miss a bowl game, I think he is absolutely gone. There's no way you keep him. If they go 6-6, probably the same thing. 7-5, depending on who they beat and how they beat them, he might save his job. But this game against Stanford, if they get pounded, Stanford, by the way, is in a down year right now too. If they get pounded by Stanford, that might be the final nail in his coffin. Real quick, they're not major programs, but absolutely worth noting. Oregon, is it time for them to move on from Mark Helfrich?
Yes. I mean, this team has lost 4 straight games. He can't recruit a quarterback. I mean, that is just mind-blowing right there. They had to start a freshman quarterback first career start against Washington, no less. It's time to move on, maybe switch up the mentality there a little bit.
Absolutely, and I don't understand how they don't get every recruit west of the state of Nebraska with Phil Knight at the helm, that sweet facility, the best uniforms in college football, a beautiful campus. I don't understand how they don't recruit the absolute daylight out of the West Coast.
It's because of Chris Peterson.
It could be, and Chris Peterson's done a great job. And I'm not going to, there's nothing wrong with the program at Washington. He's done an unbelievable job, and they're as legit as anyone in the country right now. But, I mean, if you're Oregon, they were in the national championship a little over half a decade ago. Chip Kelly had them on top of the world, and now they're a joke. They're almost not a lock of a win right this season, but there's no lock of a win in major college football, but they're a joke right now in terms of what they were. I think it's time for him to go. Auburn, Gus Malzahn, people were calling for him. I think he stays. I think he's turning it around right now. He had a flop of a quarterback in Jeremy Johnson. He had to scramble. He kicked off his 3 best guys in the last 2 years, violated team rules, academic, trouble with the law. You have to let them go. You lose your 3 biggest playmakers, you're not going to be that good. It's that simple. He's starting to figure it out offensively, while at the same time his defense is very legit now. I think Gus Malzahn has bought himself another year to improve, and then I think we reevaluate Auburn after next season. Josh, what say you?
I say definitely keep him. He's dealt a pretty tough hand over there at Auburn. Keep him, see where the program goes. If it goes downhill a little bit and you're falling way far behind Alabama, not like you're really that close right now, but if you're really falling behind, then maybe decide to make a move. But right now, I think it's a little bit too early to pull the plug on him.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Everyone's behind Alabama. This is a message to you, LSU, as well. Everyone's behind Alabama. Les Miles is not the only one that can't beat Nick Saban. So I think we got to take that Alabama thing and consider the situation. So, all right, that was a good uninterrupted. I really like that. That was a good conversation. And we'll have another conversation like that once the season ends and the coaching carousel gets in full swing. It's power ranking time. This is a good one. I got to give credit to Josh. I shot him a text. I said, what should we do? I'm stuck. He came back right away. We're doing our top 5 favorite throwback uniforms in sports. It's not college. It's not just pro. It's not just baseball. It's any level. Well, college and professional. We're not going to dip into the high school level. College and professional, any sport, the world is yours. So, Josh, let's get right to it. I'm going to start out with a bang right now. Number 5, Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Before they had to change their name from the Rainbow Warriors to the Warriors, I believe in 2000. And I think they wore these uniforms in maybe 2013. They got the rainbow stripes on the shoulders. For those of you that are listening, not watching, I'm doing a little demonstration. The rainbow stripes on the shoulders and on the sides of the helmet, as well as down the pants, I believe. Absolutely beautiful to the eye, with a great, a unique, I should say, mascot name. But the jerseys were absolutely phenomenal. So they're my number 5. Football, by the way, football.
I'm going to have to keep it close to home for this first one. Number 5, I'm going to say the Mariners pitchfork jerseys. It was right when Ken Griffey Jr. came in the league, and they were pretty sharp. They were like a yellow and like a royalish blue. It was really sharp. I really liked those. And in these jerseys didn't have buttons down the middle. It was just a straight pullover jersey. They looked really fresh. They had nice piping down the pants. It was really good look. So those are my number 5 right there.
Those are really nice. And I feel like there's going to be another Seattle team on your list. I have it in mind. I'm going to keep it, save it for later, see if it comes up. But my number 4 is the Chargers powder blue. I know it's not that throwback, but they were way more prevalent, especially with those bolt helmets, those white bolt helmets with the numbers. Back when LT was in his prime with Antonio Gates, I mean, there was nothing prettier than watching LaDainian Tomlinson break out another big run for another 80-yard touchdown in those powder blue uniforms. They were absolutely fantastic. I feel like every sports fan had at least 1 or 2 friends that owned one, whether it was Gates or LT. Those were absolutely beautiful, and they're my number 4.
Yeah, those are nice. I remember those games with Bolts versus Colts on Sunday Night Football, and they always wore those powder blues. Those were cool. My number 4, I'm going to football now. We're going to go with the LA Rams. This is not the now LA Rams, the previous LA Rams, and those I'm really liking these blue and yellow jerseys. I really like that color combination. But they were really slick. Eric Dickerson wore them. They were really cool, and they just wore them against the Seahawks a few weeks ago. Of course, beat them. But they're really cool jerseys. Really like that color scheme. It just seems to fit for a throwback.
Yeah, those are so throwback. You look at them now, and it's not terribly different design-wise from what the Rams have. But they're just so fresh, such a clean look, and a total throwback. My number 3 is throwing it back to the good old days of the NBA, the high-flying days of the the early 2000s. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady on the Raptors, those purple or white jerseys, however you want to look at it. But I personally prefer the purple with the Raptor holding a basketball on the front and the two stripes down the middle and the mountains on the back. I think they had mountains on the back. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'm confusing them with the Jazz. I think I am. But nonetheless, still fantastic. Absolutely love them. A great look. I always love a good purple on a uniform. Josh, I'm sure you can agree with me with the Washington Huskies. Of course, I'm saying that for Northwestern. But I do really love purple on a uniform. LSU, it works too. So those Raptors with the actual Raptor dribbling the basketball on front, my number 3, those are prime.
Yeah, those are actually that's upcoming on my list, so stay tuned for that. I really like those jerseys. But my number 3 is going to be the throwback Astros jerseys. It's the ones with like that Lone Star on them. It's kind of like an orange, red, yellow, goldish color scheme. Really cool jerseys. I think they wore them, I think, either last year or the year before against the Mariners. They had a throwback night. Really cool jerseys. Really liked how those looked. So, yeah, those are my number 3.
Not bad, not bad. My number 2, Denver Nuggets. That was those blue ones or white. I prefer the blue. With the Rocky Mountains across the chest, and it says Nuggets, and we've got the Denver skyline kind of faded into the Rocky Mountains. I think that is, I don't know why, looking back at this now, I don't know why that's not my number 1. Those are epic. Denver's a great city, and they highlight both that nice skyline and the Rocky Mountains, which run right through it. Those were absolutely fantastic, and they've worn them a couple times the past few years, so a nice dip back in down memory lane. But those are absolutely gorgeous. I love them. I love them. Number 2.
I'm keeping it with baseball here for this next one. I'm going to go. I like this entire kind of theme of jersey, but the Cardinals. I'm sticking with the Cardinals. The Cardinals powder blue road jerseys. Stan Musial wore them. Ozzie Smith wore them in those years. Really cool. They wore them this summer. I went to a Mariners Cardinals game. It was like an 80s throwback night. They wore these jerseys. Really liked how they looked. I would love to see a team bring back a powder blue road jersey. I think they're really cool. It's really unique. And no team really has a powder blue road jersey. It looks really good with their red that they have. So the Cardinals, and really just any powder blue road jersey, really, really cool.
Now, that's a jersey that should not work, but it is absolutely perfect, and it works so well that I don't even they're so beautiful. Those are fantastic. Probably in the top 3 of the powder blue jerseys all time, but number 1 on my list and number 1 in the powder blue, I'm dipping way back into history. The Montreal Expos with Vlad Guerrero. I think they had Cliff Lee back in the day. Those powder blue were absolutely sensational. I loved their logo, the way it tied in with the powder blue. They had that red also. The red, white, and blue, and those caps were fantastic. I love the Expos powder blue uniforms. And, okay, now that I'm talking about it, I understand why I put them ahead of those Nuggets ones. But that's a strong 1-2 for me. But the Montreal Expos absolutely have to take number 1.
Absolutely. No, those are great jerseys. I almost threw those in on my list, but I was like, I kind of like the Cardinals because I saw that up close and personal this year. But my number 1 was your number 3, I think. I really, really like those Raptors jerseys with the Raptor on there and the basketball. I just think back to that movie Like Mike. I don't know if you watched that or anything. And it was the LA Knights was the fake team going up against the Raptors, and they had those jerseys, and I just fell in love with them then. Really like them now. I wish they kind of wear those a little bit more. But the Raptors and the Raptor on the jersey, the actual animal on the jersey is my number 1. Love those.
Nothing quite like it. And I thought for sure that the Seattle Supersonics, those green ones, were going to make an appearance on your list. What happened there?
I don't know. I felt like I didn't want to go to Seattle a little bit too much. I really like those jerseys with the skyline on them, though. It's a really cool jersey. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, I don't have a good reason for that.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, there are so many to choose from, and it's only fitting that we shared one on there. I think we haven't gone a week without sharing at least one, but most of the time, it's a pretty focused conversation. This was totally broad, and we still had one that shared. So I've given up at this point to try and branch out a little bit. So we're doing whatever we can over here, but that'll just about do it for us. Hope we gave you guys a nice preview for that IU-Nebraska game this weekend. Josh and I feel good about it. It's a very winnable game. And yes, you should storm the field if you're thinking about it. If the Hoosiers come out victorious, I'm knocking on wood right now. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we will see you guys next week. Last week we had a little bit of a scheduling conflict, so we couldn't get it out there. But we're glad to be back, and we are excited to be back next week. Go Hoosiers. Make sure you watch. We have a good football team, believe it or not, and we'll see you guys next time.